The topic of capital punishment is a touchy subject between those who are pro-death penalty and those who are against it. Death penalty advocates think of capital punishment to be the most cost-efficient, effective, and ethically correct way to deter homicide. On the other hand, the opposition believes capital punishment to be a harsh, immoral, and inhumane way of handling crime. I think the sanctity of human life can be interpreted in different ways. When we are talking about abortion, the victim is innocent, blameless, and unable to defend himself. However, with capital punishment, the victim is afforded a trial by a jury of his peers and all of the appeals that follow. The victim of capital punishment is convicted of taking another human life. A judge and a jury determined this act was serious enough to warrant that his life be taken away from him. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill," but it also says, "An eye for an eye."
5 pro-death penalty arguments.
Number 5.
Removal of a threat to society. Even though Saddam Hussein was captured and tried via an Iraqi tribunal in 2005, he still remained a threat. One of his tribunal judges was assassinated before the trial even began. Pablo Escobar was not only able to control his criminal empire from a luxurious prison, but he was also able to escape with a disturbing level of ease. Some criminals are truly above the law, and that their influence can reach the outside world, even if they are behind bars. For this reason, some criminals are simply too dangerous to live at all.
Number 4.
Closure for victims. The criminal gets caught, tried, and convicted, and it is understood that the punishment will be severe. But the person he has killed no longer has a part to play in this. Unfortunately, the murderer has deprived his family and friends of a loved one. Their grief begins with the murder. It may not end with the murderer's execution, but the execution does engender a feeling of relief at no longer having to think about the murderer being alive while your loved one is dead.
Number 3.
Fear of death. Most people have a natural fear of death. If every murderer who killed someone died instantly, the homicide rate would be very low because no one likes to die. We cannot do this, but if the justice system can make it more swift and severe, we could change the laws to make capital punishment faster and make appeals a shorter process. The death penalty is important because it could save the lives of thousands of potential victims.
Number 2.
No proof of innocent executed. Opponents claim lots of innocent men are wrongfully executed. There has never been any proof of an innocent man being executed. A study by Badeau-Radlick claimed there were 22 cases where the defendant has been wrongfully executed. However, this study is very controversial. There was no substantial evidence of guilt and no evidence of innocence. Moreover, our judicial system takes extra precautions to be sure the innocent and their rights are protected.
Number 1.
Eye for an eye. Every person has the right to live. When someone else violates that right, the only fair punishment is to take away the right to live from the murderer as well.
A Bible verse from the Old Testament states, "An eye for an eye," where God laid out punishment for one who injures another person in a physical way. A modern-day interpretation would mean that any human that purposely takes the life of another should be held accountable and sentenced in the same fashion. Although opposers believe this interpretation to be incredibly harsh, immoral, and inhumane, the majority believe it to be the most affordable, effective, and ethically correct way of deterring homicide. Moreover, it must be noted that the death penalty honors human dignity by treating the defendant as a free, moral actor, able to control his own destiny for good or for ill. It does not treat him as an animal with no moral sense. This statement certainly simplifies the argument of morality to those who oppose capital punishment by portraying the available act of free will of his or her own life choices. A jury of peers help to reach the ultimate decision of whether or not a suspect involved in a trial due to his or her irresponsibility of choosing, with their free will, to end another's life, providing justice to both parties due to the suspect being innocent until proven guilty. Among other advantages, the deterrence of murder in states that do not enforce the death penalty significantly reduces the amount of premeditated murders, in the simple sense that humans fear death. If a person is afraid to die, they are less likely to commit murder. And the possibility of an individual that has previously committed murder, if executed, becomes extinct, so that he or she will not be able to commit murder again. The Bible also states that it is not up to another living being to determine the expiration of another. It is up to God to decide. The deterrent of murder with an enforced death penalty was proven in the 1980s, when capital punishment was abolished, with murder rates nearly tripling and increased to an all-time high. This goes to show why our pro-death penalty policy needs to be implemented through all states. It would make for a much safer United States of America.